like your brain is going to explode with questions and concerns about parenting, education, and what is right for you and your child?
Hi everyone, welcome to the Mindful Mummies podcast. I'm Bree.
And I'm Stina.
And we're sisters-in-law with backgrounds in education, and combined we have 5 very busy boys.
Our hope is to create a community for parents where we can learn, laugh, and support each other.
We'll be joined by special guests who inspire us and bring different perspectives to the table.
Thanks for joining us. Today on the podcast, we talk with Rachel and Tina from Mom Jeans. Rachel and Tina are colleagues and podcast co-hosts of the Mom Jeans podcast, who both wholeheartedly believe and practice personally and professionally in their private practices, intuitive eating, weight inclusivity, and promote having a positive relationship with yourself in order to live fully free. Their duo consists of Rachel Coleman, a certified eating disorder therapist in California and a body positive advocate, and Tina LaBoy, a registered dietitian and eating disorder specialist in Texas and health at every size advocate. They have both been treating eating disorders and negative body image in their clients for over 15 years. And now that they are both moms, they also love breaking stigmas of the mom bod. We hope you enjoy this incredibly valuable conversation. Hi, Rachel and Tina. Welcome to the Mindful Mummies podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. We are incredibly excited to be chatting with Rachel and Tina from Mom Jeans. They have their own podcast, in addition to a blog and amazing Instagram account, and we absolutely love all of their content. So we're excited to learn from you guys today. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about who each of you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Rachel. My name is Rachel Coleman, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a practice in South Orange County, California, for those of you, not Florida. And I am also a mom of 3. And so I am really passionate about the intersection of body image and a relationship with food and also motherhood, because that adds a whole nother layer of complication to it all.
Totally. Thanks, Rachel.
I am Tina. Hey, everyone. I'm a registered dietitian. I live in Austin, Texas. Yeehaw. I think I've been here long enough where I can officially say that. Yeah, yeehaw, and say y'all. It's happening. It's slowly morphing. And I have 1 child, which feels plenty. And yeah, I'm a dabbler. I have a group practice of amazing, fabulous dietitians, and we work, from a non-diet, weight-inclusive lens, helping individuals work through their recovery process. I also have a supervision business with a fellow RD, and we support allied health professionals in their supervision, their career, any and all. And then, Mom Jeans with Rachel. And I always joke that she tricked me in my early postpartum days, right? And somehow we've entered into the most expensive, time-consuming hobby, which is the podcast and the Instagram, but we love it and are so excited to be here today to chat.
Thank you for being here.
So how did you guys meet?
We're siblings from another mother. No.
We work together at a treatment center, an eating disorder treatment center.
Okay.
So in the trenches of really treating clients in pretty sick and acute levels of care together. So you bond very quickly as a staff in that environment. And then we both branched out to private practice, but always had the love to work together. And then Tina moved to Austin, and I was like, I still want to work with her. I feel like the dream is still out there. So we kind of came up with this concept, and it's worked so far.
That's amazing that you've been able to make it work.
To be perfectly honest, we talk more now than we have when we lived near each other.
Every time I go to text anybody, Siri's like, did you mean Tina? And I'm like, no, not this time. But 9 out of 10 other times, yes, Siri.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Nice that you've stayed connected and made it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Awesome. So, and what do you guys mostly talk about on your podcast?
We talk about ways to live in this current world as a parent and not passing on the crap that you learned when you grew up and that you're fed today, pretty much, you know? So debunking diet culture, really learning body trust, body respect while raising children, and ultimately protecting them so that these diet legacies that are being passed down from generation to generation and that our kids are currently living in, you know, protecting them from that so that ultimately they can be these intuitive eaters, body confident individuals, and also just be more aware and inclusive to others and their struggles, right? So recognizing privileges and really just calling out unlearning and learning and all of that. So that is our podcast in a nutshell. There. Amazing. You don't even need to listen to anything. That's just it. No, listen, please listen.
Well, I've listened to quite a few and I love them. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I think it's such an important conversation. I teach grade 6 and I see this with so many of my students.
And isn't that, like, I would say grade 6 is when it starts to really sink in, like, as I mean, that's when I remember being the most, like, starting to feel really, really self-conscious. And
well, it's insane that it's happening earlier and earlier. Like I only have a 2.5-year-old, so lived experience for children in school is not my forte, but I've, you know, my clients and their lived experience is my evidence. And so I have a lot of clients that have kids in kindergarten coming home with grade assignments that are categorizing good and bad foods, that are talking about different children's bodies in a negative way, and, you know, really trying to reframe that with my clients so that they have ammo to talk back to these assignments, hold boundaries, talk to the teachers, you know, because teachers, they live in diet culture too. They're just regurgitating information. So it's happening earlier and earlier, and these children their brains are sponges, so they're absorbing it, and again, they're just repeating what they hear, and so it's really important to start young. So
yeah, definitely. I have a 9-year-old son, and he talks a lot about his body, and he talks about his weight. He wants to weigh himself. And it's interesting because I made a pact with some girlfriends to get rid of our scales 3 years ago. And so I got rid of having scales. And when I was pregnant, I refused to weigh myself. I was like, nope, I don't want to know. I don't want to know, because I have 3 kids. And in my first pregnancy, I was like really obsessed with how much I weighed. And then the second 2, I didn't weigh myself. But then I felt like I turned 40 and I wanted to get healthier again, and so I've been working out like a maniac, and I wanted to know if I made progress, and so I felt like I couldn't tell without a scale, and so I went and bought a scale again, and I regret it so much.
I'd like to have a dietitian and therapy session right now, because this is, I'm like, oh, we're getting in that mode. Okay, I'm gonna do it.
I know, like you're diving right in there, Stina. Let's go for it.
Well, I was thinking about kids and my son, and how now that we have a scale, he's like weigh himself all the time and asking other people what they weigh. And I was like, whoa, no, this is not okay. Like, let's not place value on this number on the scale. Like, but at the same time, that's what I'm doing, because I so badly wanted the affirmation that the number on the scale. And guess what? It wasn't what I wanted it to be, and it made me feel like crap. So
I think there's
too much value in that number.
Yeah.
There's two really important topics here. I think for yourself, and then as a parent, like the perspective as a parent and how to support your children through these kind of body image issues.
For sure.
Where do we start? Because I want to know for myself, and I have boys, so who knows? You know, could be different, might not be different, but I'm definitely curious to know about the tools and strategies that you guys have for talking to your children and ways to support them. So where do we start?
Yeah, there's a lot to tackle here. I'll kind of let Rachel go in, but one thing I want to reframe is that, you know, no matter what the gender is, everyone can struggle with body image. So, just planting that seed in there that just because you may have girls or just because you have boys or just because you have non-binary, like everyone struggles because we're all living in the same culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rachel, you go, because I could literally talk for years about this, right? Yeah.
I could too, and I was trying to kind of think of what your children and then you as the parent have in common. And for me, it boils down to the same exact question, which is, am I okay? Like, am I okay in this world where the currency in this world is how we look and our appearance? So I think what we're always trying to figure out is like, am I making it in these societal expectations that if I look a certain way, I will therefore gain value. I will gain like currency in this culture. And so I think what your son's probably saying too is like, am I okay externally? Because if I am, maybe I'll be accepted at school more. And then what we're trying to do as parents too, or even just as we grow up at any age, is like, the more I feel like I'm controlling something in a very out of control society, which the truth, of course, is that like we can't control our bodies, but the more we feel though that we are like somehow controlling our societal like ladder, we're like maybe climbing up, and if we're higher, we'll be valued more. So I think it all comes down to the sense of we put so much worth into like how we look and how we appear. And I love how you said like, am I making, I say progress, but I love the way you say it, but like, am I making progress? Yeah. And I think that was a really interesting question you asked yourself. Like, what is your definition of progress and what's your definition of health? We always narrow it down to how we look. And I think one of the things that Tina and I are so passionate about busting is like, health is way more than a number on a scale. And health is even way more than your pant size or the foods you eat or how much you exercise. Like, health is a really, really overarching word with a lot of definitions in it. And so it's really hard for us to be like, your progress is maybe mental health. You feel better working out a little bit more. Or maybe you notice there's not big difference physically, mentally, spiritually, anything with you working out. So I don't know, working out's going to fall. Oh, it's too loud.
What? Oh, no.
Working out's going to fall lower down on your ladder because you don't really have time for it and it doesn't really matter anyway. So I think it's just doing a lot of like introspection on what's your definition of health and how much value you're putting in how you look.
Yeah. I think from the dietitian angle, it's exactly that. Like, what stood out for me was, okay, I turned 40 and I'm starting to freak out, right? And so there's so much behind that. Like, well, did your body change? And then that caused this to freak out. Or you notice specific things like, I don't feel as strong, or I'm feeling more tired, or I'm out of breath more, or whatever it may be, right? And the first angle is validation. Like, yes, these are normal ailments of like getting older, but weight loss or weight change doesn't actually heal those things. Weight is a symptom of something else. It isn't a behavior. So by engaging in more movement to help you feel stronger and decrease some of these ailments and give you more energy while you fuel your body, weight, we really wouldn't want weight to change, or if anything, you would build more muscle, so you probably would gain weight, right? So we can't weight ourselves, right? Like, weight is not an action. It is a symptom of. So as you step on the scale and you're like, and I'm assuming, you're like, I've gained some weight. How is this possible? It's like, yes, you've built muscle, and probably why you've seen some of the progress, which is I don't feel as much back pain, or I do have more energy, or my mental health is better, right? And so I think it's really coming down to the core of what Rachel was saying. Are you okay? What's the core issue? And then really what end goal lines up with the values you're wanting to hold within yourself and within your family. And if it is weight, then I think that is something that, would need to be processed and reworked and reframed. Otherwise, diet culture is a strong presence within the household.
So should I throw out the scale?
Yes. Why did you even bring it back, right? I have those clients where I'm like, you have literally spent so much money on scales. Imagine what that could have been, spent on. Or at one point, I had collected so many scales from clients. I was like, I have to throw these out now, because the agreement was I won't throw it out until you tell me you're ready for me to throw it out, right? Because they could come back and get it whenever they wanted. Very rarely did they do that, but at some point it was like, I have literally a pile of scales. We have to throw these out because I have nowhere to put these, and I don't want them in my house.
No. You gotta draw them art and then smash them.
Right.
But I think you answered your own question. You said you have regretted it ever since.
Yeah.
So where's the question? Yeah. What part of you feels guilty, like you should keep it?
Yeah.
It's so backwards too, because you're thinking, okay, the scale's going to make me feel better about myself, but really it just haunts you. It makes you feel worse about yourself. So, I mean, temporarily, like if you've, I don't know. I mean, it's a confusing thing for sure.
Yeah.
The hate relationship, right?
The one very gentle privilege angle I'm going to throw out here, because I have to, is that if we are holding the privilege of straight size or privileged bodies, then, it is a privilege to be able to weigh yourself and, change your body. Whereas a lot of individuals are living in these marginalized identities that really can't shy away from this. And they're told every single day that their body is wrong. And, they're given less access to healthcare. They're told constantly to lose weight, even though maybe they went into the doctor for a headache or allergies, or, physical therapy would help with some of the ailments, but they're just told to lose weight, right? So like, there's a lot of privilege within this language that we're having right now, and that's okay to recognize, right? But I think part of Rachel and I's work and hope for the podcast is to just bring more awareness to individuals of like, can you hear what you're saying and how possibly harmful it could be, not only for your kids, but for others that you're unintentionally harming by just having this dialogue. And it could be one of your friends that lives in a marginalized body and then hears you casually talking about this and then ultimately feels bad about their body because they look at you and think you're amazing and your body is a privilege, right? So I think these are just like tiny little seeds that we can do some unlearning, because diet culture does tell us, our current culture tells us that thin is better. And Rachel and I are really trying to help people understand that, like, no, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, totally. I've been trying really hard to, like, if I notice someone's been working out or like, changing their shape or whatever, instead of saying, wow, you look so good, you look so thin, I say like, oh my gosh, you're looking so healthy, like, or you're glowing, or I don't know, something like, you're looking great. Like, I don't know what to say, but I try to not focus it on body size. Do you guys have something that like you would say to someone like that? Like, what's the best thing to say? Say nothing? Do you say nothing?
I don't say nothing at all. I mean,
yeah.
Like, because get healthy then is equated to body change. So I try to shy away from that word as well.
Can I give you a scenario? And then it'll be a behind the scenes scenario. So let's say this individual has been working out X number of hours per day and does not have the best relationship with the exercise. It's more of an obligatory and compulsive action. They also are counting their calories and restricting their intake. And they just recently started taking diet pills or laxatives or started purging their food or whatever it may be. And at the core of it, they're really unhappy and they're struggling. And then they go out into the world and someone goes, oh my gosh, you look so happy. You look like you're glowing, right? Very non-body, non-external, but really just like, I'm noticing that you have just life to you. And now that person internalizes that and goes, well, I must be happy, or I must need to continue these behaviors because no one told me this when I didn't do this, right? So it perpetuates the cycle, right? Or if we have I'll like self-disclose from my postpartum period where I had a raging thyroid disorder that I had no idea was going on. I was so tired, so sleep deprived, breastfeeding, having a hard time, and an undiagnosed thyroid. So I was not at my normal body size, right? Like it was lower than where I naturally maintained. And everyone commented me on this, right? Not my like core friends, because those are all like, you know, they're all dietitians in this world. Yeah, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of people commented like, you look amazing. And at one point I was like, I'm miserable. Please stop telling me this, because I don't feel good.
Yeah.
But I have boundaries, right? This is what I do for a living. So even at the core of it, it was really hard, but I'm like, please stop commenting on my body, because this is not normal. And this, I want you to be like, hey, Tina, what's wrong? You don't look like your normal self. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not like, hey, you look so thin. Like, no, I haven't slept in 48 hours and I feel like I have zero energy, right? And like, I need someone to like bathe me, right? Like, I'm not okay. Right? So just like gentle reframes that like sometimes saying nothing is way more powerful than feeling like you need to project out what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Rachel, do you therapize us, please?
Well, I think you bring up a really good point, though, is like, especially as women, we tend to use that language about how someone's looking or appearing as like our go-to conversational tool. You know, like we just kind of talk about each other's bodies when we see each other. Like you never see like, I don't know, our partners be like, hey, you want to go surfing? Like your abs look great. Like they just don't talk like that. But
maybe they do. I don't know.
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything like, but I think so much in our culture, like that is kind of, again, like how women, and I know it's all genders, but like how we tend to like converse. So I think part of that, again, unlearning piece is realizing like, oh gosh, there's a lot of like patriarchy involved. There's a lot of systems involved in even one simple comment. So I know I try to kind of have a little bit more of a critical lens of like, I don't want to buy into this whole system. You know?
Sorry. My cat is in the background.
Your cat is so sweet.
No way.
Oh my gosh, I want
all of our voices. She's pregnant.
What?
Yeah.
How perfect for this podcast. Your little baby's going to be a mama.
I know. I haven't even announced it to anybody yet. But some people I'm close with. But here it is. Everyone's going to know. Yeah, we thought she was a boy. It's a long story. But I thought she was a boy, and she ended up getting knocked up in the neighborhood. So.
Wow.
Anyways,
that too.
I was distracted because she's so affectionate right now because she's pregnant and like we've got a major bond. So she hears my voice and she's like, anyways, my question is what if it is coming from like a positive place? Like for me, I know like I'm working my butt off right now and it feels really good. It's not a negative thing. Like I'm enjoying getting up and it makes me feel healthy and good. And like my clothes fit more comfortably. And it's not necessarily from like I need to get skinny. It's more, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel good. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel, And what if somebody says to you, actually my mom, she'll say this to me, and sometimes it's negative, like sometimes it will come from it'll come at different times, but she'll say, wow honey, you're looking so fit and healthy. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of nice to feel like validated because I'm working really hard towards something. So when it's coming from in a way of like a positive place, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the hardest part is that you just don't know, like you're saying, like sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. How do you know which situation you're walking in on? And so a gentle reframe to what you just shared was, okay, this person, your mother, but like it could be a close friend or whatever, knows the background, right? They know that you've been working really hard or whatever. So the reframe could be, hey, I am so proud of you for being so dedicated. Like, I can really see how hard you're working. Like, how's it feeling for you? And you could be like, I just love it. I feel so much stronger. I feel better. Like, I'm so happy for you that you're feeling that positivity. Yeah. Boom. Now she's complimented you. You've gotten validation, and it has nothing to do with your body, right? Versus like, we just don't know what we're walking into. So to acquaintance or a stranger or whatever, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors, right? And so if you're just commenting on someone's body, then you could actually be validating a very unhealthy behavior. And we just don't know what that's perpetuating. But I think to a close friend, there can still be validation without saying, hey, you look like your body has changed,
It's such a habit too, because as women, it's the first thing you notice about a friend. So, and it happened to me the other day. I have a friend. I was like, holy shit, she's lost a ton of weight. And I said to her, I was like, you're looking so thin. And it came from like, it was a compliment, but then I was like, oh, it's not really a compliment. And she turned to me and she was like, I'm stressed.
Yeah. To me, my first instinct was, oh no, why did you lose a bunch of weight? Right? Like, that's where my head goes. That weight loss is never a positive, right?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I want to turn.
Rachel, go! I'm sorry. Just cut me off.
Okay, only because what Tina said like a couple minutes ago about weight is not a behavior, I think sums up this entire topic. Like, it's what you're talking about is making behavioral changes that might feel okay for you and then releasing what happens with your body. So like, you might end up deciding that it feels better for your mood to like walk every single day. Your body could change. It could not. At that point, how do you release any like expectation that your body will change because of this, knowing that like it did something for you? You are feeling better because you're getting fresh oxygen in the morning and you're having clarity time, especially as a mom, listening to some music and going on a walk, and you're released, and that feels healthy. Yeah. Even though your body doesn't change, right? So I think when I see someone whose body's changed, maybe I go into therapist mode, but I instead of ever asking them or commenting, what I try to say is like, how have you been? And they'll usually say like, I've actually been really good. Like, I joined this new whatever. And sometimes I'm like, I have thoughts about that. If you ever want to talk about it, but that's okay. Yeah. Other times I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and how's that felt for you, or how's that been? And sometimes like, you know what, finally, especially as a mom, I've learned to put myself first. And I've turned out, I've been doing, some sort of, I don't know, exercise or cooking a different way, or heck, just sleeping. I've just been sleeping lately, quite frankly. Yeah. And so, yes, I'm glowing for the first time in 4 years because my kid weaned or something. But so I tend to just be like, how are you? And what's been going on? Yeah. And then, your friend could be like, I've been so stressed, and, maybe my body's changed as a result. Or you could say, I've been walking a lot, and I've been kind of working my butt off to really prioritize my mommy time. And I do feel a little bit more healthy and energized. And I don't have a scale, so I don't know if that's changing anything. But yeah, I feel healthier. So
I think the key in what
the weight, the pressure, the focus on the size, right? It's
I think what you're saying though is that we're not projecting our own feelings, right? We're sitting with the person and letting them share, right? So Bree, when you're saying like, hey, I just want some validation, well, if someone just asks you like, how are things going, and you tell them about how hard you've been working and the amazing dedication that you feel is happening, then they can be like, I'm so proud of you. That's so amazing. That sounds awesome. But if someone's saying like, hey, your body looks fabulous, then what if on a negative day you're like, oh, I didn't feel like working out today, but I guess I have to because I need to like perpetuate this and blah, blah. Like, it can go real negative real quickly, right? So,
especially because then you feel insecure if you've gained weight about being around your friends now. I don't talk about my friends because now, last time they saw me, I had lost all this weight and they complimented me. And now they're going to be like, oh, she gained all that weight back. And that's how like a lot of people's like anxiety about being out in public places and certain types of outfits starts to form. It starts from the times when they got the compliments.
Yeah.
No one ever insults people these days very much to their face, right? Maybe online, but like no one's like, oh girl, you get wit. Like no one talks like that.
Yeah.
It's the compliments that people think then, well, if they're not complimenting me, now what? Or if my body has changed, now what? So again, I think it's just kind of trying to like go bigger than this whole entire topic. There's so many pieces at play when we're all talking about our bodies or focused about our bodies and all that. And it's like, how can we zoom out and just be like, wow, there's a way bigger picture that is where true happiness lies anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those strategies for ourselves as moms, as parents, that you would provide for people who are coming to you for help with this area. Sorry.
So what particular area? Like, hey,
I'm just curious. So for instance, what's a typical client for you guys?
There is none.
All over the map.
You gotta rein it in, because I work with 2-year-olds to older aged individuals, right? So yeah.
So let's talk about the adults first, because I'm curious, like how I would love to provide some strategies for it's mostly moms that are listening to us. There are probably some dads, but some strategies for moms that are feeling maybe frustrated and insecure, or what Tina and I have both experienced and talked about, which I think probably is mostly just frustration. I know for me, my body has just completely changed. Like it's not the same, and that's fine. It's taking me some time to be okay with that. My husband keeps reminding me that I birthed 2 babies and it's going to be okay. But that part of my brain is still saying, like, why can't I get myself back to that place when I walk down the aisle? Or, like, why can't I get, and really it's almost like my bone structure has changed. Like my hips are bigger, and anyways, I could go on and on and on. But how do we get to a place as moms where we can just accept and love ourselves and appreciate what we've done?
So I'm going to ask questions.
Shoot away.
We're going to reference the place that you referenced that you want to get back to, which is walking down the aisle. So from that time, how old were you when you walked down the aisle?
I was 30, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And now, whatever age you are, what has happened in between those years from walking down the aisle to current? Lots, right? Like, and can you undo any of those things?
No.
And I'm assuming, I don't want to assume, but you've already shared that you've had 2 babies. So I'm going to tell you something that's mind blowing, but maybe I need to tell you, which is we cannot shove those babies back up in you. And erase that. I'm sorry, and you're welcome, right? Okay.
I don't want to.
I know, but we're referencing a time. Did you have your children prior to walking down the aisle?
No,
okay. So you're referencing a point prior to those life experiences, and we actually can't erase those life experiences, and you don't want to erase those life experiences per your words. And so as a result, again, our bodies, our weight is not a behavior, it's a symptom. So the weight and body that you're currently healing with, but let's say partially at war with, is trying to erase your 2 children. Like, well, I'm not even there yet. Sorry. We're just talking about life events, how your body is the vehicle for these life moments, and 2 life moments being probably 2 individuals that you're freaking obsessed with. Okay. Like, we can't erase that. And so your body has gone through that with you. It's taken care of you. It's fed them if that was the path. It's birthed them. It's done all these things. So you're right. Your bone structure did change. Your hips got wider and they did not go back, right? Your boobs.
My boobs are like 2 times the size they were. They're driving me crazy.
Not going back. Not going back. Okay.
So like, where did these come from?
I know. Okay. They're boobs. They're there. Yep. So this is what I sit with clients and talk about of like, I hear you.
Yeah.
We're all in it. We're all going to experience it, but we can't erase it. And your body is the one thing that continues to show up for you. So if you can't accept your body, then let's at least work on toleration, respect, and trust. And in doing that, I feel like the relationship will be a little bit better, right? You still may have days you're like, I'm pissed off at you, and my boobs, they don't look like 20-year-old boobs. And it's like, yeah, you're right, they don't. But no one cares, right? Like, no one's looking at you going like, look at your, I don't know how old you are, but like, look at your 30-year-old boobs, like, look at your 40 boobs. Like, no one cares, but we're just so critical of ourselves. I'll let Rachel tap into the age thing because we did a whole episode on this. So I'll let her get that.
Yeah, we've done a couple episodes where we talked about aging and the impact on like skin and our organs and our hormones. I think it was the belly genes with the G. So what?
No, she just was like huffing and puffing.
Yeah, I think we did your belly genes with a J and your belly genes with a G in our first season. And they're like science episodes. If you want to go back to those, we talk about like skin elasticity. We talk about hormone impacts on things because
telomeres,
because we kind of forget all that. And I think sometimes I try to say like my 10-year-old, I would never be like, oh, why can't you get your infant body back? It's like 10 years changed his body. Point. Right? 10 years changed his body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Back.
Oh, there we go.
You broke up
for a second. Okay. Yeah.
I guess to me, it kind of goes back to the worth thing. Like when you look in the mirror now, Bree, do you feel like, am I still worthy? Like, am I still pretty and pretty equals worth? Or
you know what? I do. Of course, it's not about worthiness. I think for me, it's not. It's more just, I think I also have a hard time with comparing myself to others too. That's a big one for me. Like I have some friends who have, maybe something they're very good at covering up, but like, I it's hard for me to that's where I find the difficulty is comparing myself to other moms where I'm like, how come she doesn't have any cellulite on the back of her legs? Or, how come she's able to still wear a bikini, but I feel like I need to wear one pieces for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
So that's, and maybe it does come down to worthiness. Who knows? Maybe deep down inside, I know I was always raised in a family where my mom was very on top of her weight. It was like, she had a scale. It was talked about a lot. You know what? It was talked about a lot with my dad too. And without getting too deep into my personal life, like I definitely know that weight wasn't a big issue in our family. And I struggled with weight as a little girl. And as once I got older, I learned how to not accept it, but I learned how to get myself to a place where I was happy with my body. So yeah, I guess maybe it does come down to feeling like it's a confidence thing. It's like, I don't know if it's that I don't feel like I'm worthy, but it's more just, it was instilled in my head constantly, like just always thinking about it, Mm-hmm. So maybe that was my family's worthiness thing,
Mm-hmm. I grew up in a similar home too. It was just no matter what the particular complaint of the day was, it came down to the same topic of like, if we don't look a certain way, we can't be confident.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does chip away at our worthiness because we feel like we can't be confident. We can't be just free to live our lives if we don't look a certain way. And I think that happens so much to people. They feel like I can't just let myself be. I can't be in that bathing suit out, or I can't be in the shorts out at the playground if I don't look a certain way. And I think that's what's so sad for so many people is they feel like if my body doesn't look a certain way, then I'm missing out on a lot of life experiences because I don't know how to give myself that permission to just do life anyway.
I think I'm almost jealous of the people that can do that they don't care. Like, even if they maybe don't have, you know, a thin, perfect body, that they're totally fine. I'm jealous of those people too, because I'm not one of those either. You know, I'm always like, how do the back of my legs look? Or how, you know, anyways. Yes.
But again, I think it's coming. I do think it's coming down. It may not be a self-worth thing, but it's really kind of some core values or maybe a self-esteem or what you're holding within your core self. And if what the back of your legs look like is a part of what brings value to you, then yes, it's really going to be hard if you're seeing something that you don't like, right? So it those individuals that can go out and have very varied body types and have fun, like, most likely there's work, you know, mental health and deeper digging that's been done to hold that value, right? And to kind of stay at the core. You know, for me personally, again, living in a straight size body, so I do not have a marginalized identity when it comes to my size, but my body has changed for me and I am short. So, you know, it feels like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, my roles show up a little bit more and it's a little bit more difficult to find, let's say, a swimsuit or something that's going to feel good on my body. Do I always feel amazing when I'm half naked out in public? You know what I mean? No, but I don't care, because if someone's judging me by the way that I look in this vulnerable state, you can go shove it, right? Like, it's hot in Texas and I'm going to get in this pool, and it makes me hold a lot of empathy for that other person, because it's like, well, like, what's going on for you to where you feel like you need to project what's going on, you know, onto me when I'm really out here having fun, right? I'm in this moment, in this space, but it requires a lot of work, right? It requires a lot of mental digging and affirmations and reframing and challenging diet culture that tells us, you know, the opposite.
Totally. So my question was sort of going back to my son and the kids that I teach. I mean, this is obviously a big question, but how can we help our kids not develop this way of thinking and these thoughts? I know it starts with us as parents and as teachers, reframing how you're seeing things and saying things. But do you guys have any like key tips that you could pass on to parents or teachers to help create that body positivity?
Do you want me to go? Yeah. Okay. Well, you hit one key point, which is doing the work yourself. The environment that our children are a part of, like, guaranteed they are going to live in diet culture their entire life, period. Right? We are not going to exit out of this space in their lifetime, right? Hopefully, but let's pretend not, right? So they're going to get this information everywhere, right? They have access to it 24/7 with technology. So if we can create one space, which is the home, to where they're free of it, that's setting them up to hold better confidence, right? So if it isn't self-worth that all this is wrapped up in, maybe it really is just body confidence, right? Body toleration for diversity, that if we can create that in the home, that's going to set them up to be able to respond to what diet culture is throwing at them. And two, representation does matter. So if we have these scenarios where there's variety of artwork, variety of books, variety of people in their life, discussions of all bodies, calling them in versus calling them out. One example is like if a young child or even an older child, but those young kids, they just say whatever they're feeling, so if they're like, look, mommy, that person's fat, right?
Yeah.
And we don't want to go, shh, no, we don't say that. We can pull them in, call them in and go, wow, okay, what has you say that? Or the person's also tall. They're also wearing a blue shirt. They also have blonde hair. So we can recognize all these, identifications. However, we don't call them out, right? We don't yell at someone and say, hey, you have blonde hair.
Yeah.
Or teaching them, hey, we can't tell someone's gender just by looking at them. It's these kinds of conversations that I think are important, and just keeping a really safe, inclusive environment so that your child feels like they can actually talk to you.
Yeah, my boys all the time love my tummy, right? And they're like, "Oh, mommy, your tummy's so soft and jiggly," and I'm like, "Yes, it is. You guys grew in there,
Right?
Yeah. So cool. try and make that a positive conversation. My son, who's 9, he has been he's I'm like, how do I say this the right way? He's bigger guy. Similar to his parents. He's tall and he's always been bigger. When he was born, he was in the 99th percentile for many years, and he's more recently been getting comments at school where kids will call him fat or make fun of him. And I always and he'll comment on it too. Oh, I'm fat, or oh, so-and-so said I'm fat. And I'm like, no, you are healthy. You play football, you exercise, you swim, we make sure we eat our fruit and vegetables, and yes, we have treats, but we have balance. And so I'm trying to reframe it for him. But are there any suggestions you guys have for when you have kids coming to you and saying, I'm fat, people are calling me fat, that sort of thing?
I mean, I think trying to neutralize the word fat instead of saying no, you're not fat. It's fat's not bad. Some kids are fat and some kids are thin. This is just your body. And the one thing I told my kids is, some people are fat, some people are thin, some people are tall, some people are short. And the one thing I have told my kids though is and yet, unfortunately in our world, some people use the word fat to hurt people's feelings. And so I want you to be careful about using that word, especially in the playground, or to talk to other people about their bodies. Because not everybody has the same conversation like our household has about these things being all great.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing I've told my kids is hey, our world says fat is bad and uses it as an insult. And fat is just a descriptor, and it doesn't have to have any connotation to it. But I understand that is hurtful to your child, because no one's saying it neutrally. No one's like, hello, you're my fat friend, you're my tall friend.
Yeah,
That's not how kids talk on the playground.
Yeah.
So absolutely, oh my gosh, that's awful that he's being bullied for his body. Yeah. And he's being told there's something wrong with his body. I mean, I try to have the conversation as much as possible of just all bodies are different. Everyone's body's different, and we never comment or critique or anything about people's bodies, because there just is. Houses are different, trees are different, plants are different, bodies are different. No one goes to someone's house and is like, ew, your bushes. So bodies are the same. They're just nature growing in different ways. Yeah. I have the book Love Your Body. There's one that's more geared towards girls and one more geared toward boys by Jessica Sanders. And it's great. My daughter was reading it the other day, and there's all kinds of different bodies represented in it. And she was looking at one of the pictures, and the body had stretch marks. And she goes, but she didn't know what that was, right? And she points at it, she goes, what are those? And I said, oh, those are stretch marks. Sometimes when you grow quickly, or for if you get pregnant or something, your skin's stretching quickly, your skin can leave stretch marks. And she's like, oh. She's like, well, do you have those? And I was like, oh, and I like kind of showed it. And I was like, yeah, like it happens to like most people. And she's like, oh, okay. And like kind of kept moving on. But again, having those conversations in really neutral ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I grew up in a similar household, I think, as you probably, Brie. And like, I know my mom would like, oh, I know I have to hide these. Like, oh, they're so gross. And blah, blah, blah. Like she would have just, the way she would have talked about those, and she does hide her body. She's got varicose veins that she has so much shame over. She wears pants in the pool.
No.
She wears pants to the pool, my mom.
That makes me so sad.
With my grandkids. My kids are like, why is Grammy wearing that? And I'm like, Grammy struggles with feeling like her body is just fine as God made it. She feels like it's bad, but there's nothing she can do to change it. And so it makes me really sad that Grammy can't just splash around with a bathing suit for you guys, that she feels so sad, you know? And my kids are kind of like, huh? And I try not to make it a big deal because, but it's that kind of stuff, right? Like her reaction towards her quote unquote flaws, because that's what she thinks they are, is to like hide, judge, shame herself and all of that, versus just being like, oh yeah, that's just my varicose vein. Like when I was pregnant with you, it really popped those things. Like, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know? So
One thing I wanted to add,
the language and
one thing. So the book for the boys is called Be Your Own Man. And the Love Your Body is for girls, but the boy version is Be Your Own Man. I think one thing I heard, so it's, if we can validate his experience, because we cannot control other kids. So other kids are probably going to continuously call him fat if he is living in a fat body, right? Like it just is what it is. He's in the 99th percentile. Like his body is bigger. That's okay, right? But we want to validate instead of going, no, you're not fat, right? Then he's going, oh, crap. My kids are fat. My friends are telling me I'm fat. My mom is telling me I'm not fat. Now I don't know what I feel, right? So it could be like, wow, that sounds really hard. How do you feel in your body, right? Well, I kind of do feel fat. Okay. Well, you know, buddy, your body is big. You know, it's been big since you've been a baby. And that's just how your bones are structured. That's how your body wants to hold on to weight. And that's awesome, right? Like your body is great exactly how it is. And let's talk about how we can support that moving forward in your life. And I'm sorry that some kids are going to continuously use that word in a harmful way, but it is not a bad word, right? They're just using it in a way that's meant to hurt you. But you know, it's not a bad word, right? So if you can validate, then he can start to build up that self-confidence where maybe some kid goes, you're fat. And he goes, cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like now we've identified who each other are. Let's move on. Right? So we can start to build up a little bit better boundaries and comebacks that are not hurtful, right? That just are the way that they are. You have brown hair. Great. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's so interesting because sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
No, that's good.
I was going to say.
I was being teased for being short.
Yeah.
As a mom, my gut reaction, especially because he's a boy, and that's now how they're like starting to size each other up, was like, you know, to have like, so I just said, oh, how do you feel about that? He goes, I like it. I can crawl easily under tables and not bump my head.
Heck yeah!
Perfect.
I love that.
But I like that question.
That's so
just
great.
like, well, okay, and
You have blue eyes. I have brown hair.
Yeah.
We've played this game. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
What if your child comes to you and says, I don't want to be fat?
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. And, you know, I can't say that life is going to be easy because in this world, a lot of people have specific privileges and fat is not one, right? It brings a lot of challenging situations. And you, depending on the age of the kid, you can talk about that. You can talk about weight stigma and, you know, the challenges in healthcare or clothing or, you know, fair to work or whatever, you know, but it's how your body is made.
So you don't suggest saying, okay, well, let's look at some ways that we can get you feeling better about yourself.
No, because
it's a
that's just their body. Yeah. You're now making it seem like their body is the issue.
The problem. Yeah.
And it's really our culture.
And it's in his hands to change when it's not. If this is the way he's been.
Right. One YouTube video I would recommend is Poodle Science.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's fabulous for kids. It talks about, and adults. It talks about how our bodies are similar to dogs, and we're in this culture, we're all trying to be poodles. But a starving mastiff is not a poodle. It's just a starving mastiff. And so maybe you can use that video to help them understand, like, buddy, you're just a bulldog. And bulldogs rock, okay?
Yeah.
You're not a poodle. Yeah. You're not a chihuahua.
Yeah.
You're a bulldog, all right? That's rocking. And so you can empower. Totally, you can empower that.
Yeah. He's so adorable.
Yeah. So move away from protecting and fixing and move into empowering and body trust, right? Like,
love it.
We don't need to change.
No.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I talk about this all the time from a brain perspective with my students and with my kids, because I have struggling readers and I have some kids that like math, this doesn't make sense to them, but they all have different skills. And so I talk about all the time how we all have different brains and we all are different in the way that we learn and the way that we absorb information. And that's okay. Like, I grew up and I was very strong with languages and I loved drama and dance, but I needed extra help for math and I needed extra help for science, where my brother was like, no problem with math and science, but couldn't like write proper sentences, you know? Like, so I tell that situation all the time. Like, we were raised by the same parents, we just have different brains and we learn differently, and sometimes we needed extra help and sometimes we didn't. And I talk about that.
Like we've come so far as a society with that part, but we're still trying to get there with body image and well, with everything that's on social media and all of that. I mean, it's just it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, I think it's such an important conversation, and I just admire both of you, Rachel and Tina, so much what you're doing. I've really enjoyed your podcast. I can't wait to listen to it more, and we're honored that you're here with us today. I wish we could talk forever. I feel like I have so many more questions for you, but I know that you have a huge wealth of resources in your own podcast, so we will definitely send people that way as well for more information.
Yeah, and thank you, because I really feel like you guys gave some super concrete strategies and just ways for moms and parents in general, and that's what we always love. I mean, it's like, this is why I love podcasting. It's like free resources, free therapy, free therapy. I know. I feel like a new person.
Hey, well, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much
for being here.
Thank you so much for being here. And people can find you at Mom Jeans on Instagram.
It's called Mom Jeans, the podcast, with GENES. Haha.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. And that's your blog too, is Mom Jeans Podcast, all one?
It's just a website. Yeah, momjeanspodcast.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was so wonderful talking to you guys. Stay safe. Stay well.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Spotify or any of the places you like to listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Mindful Mummies or check out our blog at themindfulmummies.com.
Did you know that Stina and I have officially opened up our very own online store called Hygge Space? Hygge, spelled Hygge, is a Danish and Norwegian word that has no direct translation to English. It is more than a word or a thing, it is a feeling. The feeling of Hygge encompasses many things, including family, friends, being together, making connections, traditions, making small moments special, coziness, love, being present, and connections with nature and each other. Our hope is to help others bring Hygge into their homes and experience the feelings of warmth, peace, and comfort it can bring. Visit our online store at hyggespace.com, spelled HYGGESPACECO.com, or follow us at Hyggespace on Instagram to see our collection of luxury candles, everlasting floral arrangements, and home decor.